The HOA president was still shouting that my lake belonged to the community when the federal judge started reading the words that ended her whole career. And if you had told me a year earlier that a quiet campfire on my own land would end up in federal court, I would have laughed you off my dock. Fraud injunction, criminal referral, all of that started because a woman with a clipboard decided she could rewrite my deed with attitude and letterhead. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm a retired water engineer, and this is how my grandfather's lake went from a peaceful family spot to the line I refused to let an HOA cross. I moved back after 25 years working for the state, the kind of job where you learn two things: how water moves and how paper gets twisted when people want what isn't theirs. The place is simple: old cabin gravel drive, a spring-fed lake. My grandfather Walter built right in the 1950s. Full survey permits separate parcel surface and subsurface rights in black and white. Not one word tying us to any homeowners association. Across the water where his pasture used to be sits Silver Ridge. Lakeside big decks, perfect lawns, matching mailboxes. An HOA so proud of itself you can hear it in their emails. Their president, Marilyn Hayes, is the type who weaponizes a smile-sharp Bob Binder glued to her hand voice like customer service with a threat underneath. One cool September night, I lit a small campfire down by the lake like my grandfather used to. Neat stone ring dry wood, a mug of coffee, and his old brass compass in my pocket. The one he tapped when he told me, "Trust the measurements, not the noise." The sky was clear. The water was calm. I felt like the place was mine again. Then I heard heels on gravel. "You can't do that here," a woman's voice snapped. I turned and saw Marilyn standing just past my tree's blazer heels, like she was inspecting a crime scene. "Evening," I said. "You're on private property. Something I can help you with." "Open flames are against Silver Ridge regulations," she said, eyes on the fire. "And this lake is part of our community environment, so that needs to be out." I blinked. "Ma'am, this is Parcel 17B recorded before your subdivision existed. The lake is included. County records are public." She smiled like I'd misread a simple memo. "We'll let the officers explain it," she said, already dialing. "We have a non-compliant resident damaging HOA property." 15 minutes later, red and blue bounced off the water. Officer Lee stepped out, tired professional. "Evening, sir. We got a call about an HOA violation, open fire on community shoreline." I handed him my folder, deed plat map, water rights, and waited while he read. He walked to the lake, checked the stakes, shone his light across to the Silver Ridge sign, then back to my dock. "Ma'am," he called, "this parcel isn't in your HOA. It's his property." Marilyn didn't flinch. "Our covenants state the lake is integrated common space," she snapped. "He's hurting shared value." Lee stared a beat too long. "That's not how this works," he said. Then came back to me and lowered his voice. "I'm filing this as a boundary consultation, not a violation," he said. "But this feels intentional. You might want to talk to a lawyer." When they drove off, I stood by my own fire feeling like the ground had shifted half an inch, but I still thought it was just one overzealous neighbor with a title. The next morning at 6:04 a.m., before my coffee finished dripping, I got a certified letter, Silver Ridge Lakeside Association, notice of violation, addressed to me by name, signed by Marilyn. It claimed I owed $7,500 for unauthorized use of community lakefront, unapproved groundwater disturbance, endangerment of shared resources, and threatened liens, civil action. Forced compliance. I laughed, read it again, and the laugh stopped. At 8 sharp, I called the number. After a couple transfers, an assistant came on. Mr. Cole, President Hayes's position is clearly stated in the letter. All disputes will be handled through legal channels. I said, your position is fiction. I'm emailing you my deed survey water rights. You have zero authority on my parcel. She replied, then we'll see you in court, and hung up. Over the next days, they stopped pretending. A landscaping crew with ground-penetrating radar rolled up my drive. We're here to service the community lakefront, the foreman said. I stepped between them and the shore. This isn't your community. Turn the truck around, and he called someone. Kept his voice low, then left, but one of his guys lingered long enough to zoom in on my wellhead. Then a city inspector appeared about anonymous complaints on my dock, and retaining wall tape measure in hand, questions that sounded less like safety and more like reconnaissance depths. Inflows, outflows, whether anything tied into shared systems. Before he left, he said quietly, off the record, I've seen this pattern before. Document everything. An insurance investigator parked across from my gate taking photos, then asked if I was aware of potential liability from altering regional groundwater. Yeah, that happened. One night, I walked the line with a flashlight and found fresh metal survey stakes on my boundary, stamped with a commercial firm's logo, sitting exactly where no one had permission to be. Near my well, I found a small plastic vial residue from lab-grade strips, still visible. Someone had tested my water without consent on my dirt. That cold drop in your stomach when you realize you're not paranoid, you're late. That hit me hard. Fear showed up, but training showed up louder. I pulled my equipment from storage and ran readings around the lake. What came back made everything snap into place. My grandfather's little lake sat on the recharge point of an aquifer that fed a big chunk of the county. If you controlled this spot, you had leverage over thousands of taps. In his old files, I found a note in his handwriting. Hayes' family wanted subsurface refused water too valuable to split. They'll try again. Same name, same play. I took my charts and deed to the county records office and sat down with Howard the clerk, who's been there longer than some of those houses. He flipped through, went quiet, then pulled a stack of files. You're not the first, he said. There was the pattern. Lakefront and well properties hit with HOA disputes, code, complaints, insurance issues, then sold under pressure to shell companies tied to a water outfit called Blue Rock Resources. Same lawyers, same regional water security language. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a blueprint. I drove home with those copies, and for the first time, I wasn't just mad for me, I was mad for everyone who'd lost without knowing why. A few days later, I got an email from Dr. Nora Ruiz at the State Environmental Council. Blue Rock has hollowed out towns in 3 states. She told me, you're on their list, but you're also the first one who can prove it. Then a journalist, Chris Lang, reached out. He had internal emails about leveraging HOA enforcement, and my parcel labeled priority acquisition, plus payment records from Blue Rock connected entities to an account with Maryland's name on it. I sat at my table surrounded by maps, letters, screenshots feeling the weight. Then heard my grandfather in my head, trust the measurements, not the noise, and realized they'd picked someone who knew how to turn anger into evidence. Nora connected me with an environmental attorney, Maya Chen. She walked the property, checked the documents, and said, they think this is a local power play. If your data holds, we don't argue with them at the HOA office. We drag this into federal law, where their script doesn't work. While Maya built the case, Chris dropped his first article outlining the pattern, no names yet, but people in Silver Ridge could count. Some residents emailed apologies, some doubled down behind Marilyn. She called an emergency information session at the clubhouse. I sat in the back. She stood with a mic, 2 suits behind her. "There is a lot of misinformation," she said. "Our discussions with Blue Rock are about securing water, protecting home values, supporting the community." It sounded smooth and wrong at the same time. Someone asked, "Is Ethan's property even in our HOA?" She said, "The lake is central to our community experience," which wasn't an answer, and everyone knew it. Then Chris plugged in the projector and put up bank transfers from Blue Rock subsidiaries to Marilyn's personal account labeled Consulting Outreach Bonuses. You could feel the room tilt. "Is that fake?" someone shouted. Marilyn cracked. "You don't get it," she snapped. "He's hoarding a critical resource while the region faces drought. That lake shouldn't belong to one stubborn old man with a campfire. It should serve everyone, and if I have to be the bad guy to make that happen, fine." She said the quiet part, loud on camera, in front of the people she claimed to protect. After that, it wasn't just my fight. Residents demanded her resignation and audit explanations. Blue Rock's lawyers tried to spin, but our filings were already in federal court. Nora testified with calm, brutal science. Their pumping plan would drain the aquifer damage. Habitats wreck wells and farms. I explained how my lake stitched their faucets together, how this wasn't sharing. It was strip mining water under a different name. Maya walked the judge through every statute they were about to trip. When the judge asked Blue Rock's expert if he could guarantee no catastrophic impact, and he couldn't, you could almost hear the air go out of their case. The injunction came down. No extraction, no backdoor access, and the judge referred the harassment and false claims for investigation. When we left the courthouse, someone asked what I thought of Marilyn now. I said, "I think when people say, 'It's for the community,' while the money flows one way and the risk flows the other, you should read every line twice." Silver Ridge voted her out. Board members bailed. Neighbors who'd signed off on every threat had to face how close they'd come to selling their own water. Blue Rock backed off and went looking for an easier mark. I went back to my campfire. Same stones, same compass, same dark water that had almost been turned into numbers on a spreadsheet. And here's the part people argue about. Some say one man shouldn't sit on something that important. Some say my grandfather bought it clean, documented it right, and if you want it, you negotiate or legislate. You don't forge authority and send cops to scare people. Me, I think words like community and security only mean anything when they're honest. They called the cops on a legal fire, tried to bully me off my own deed, counted on me folding like everyone before me. Instead, the records held the science spoke louder than the slogans, and for once the law landed where it should. The lake stayed protected, not as a toy for an HOA or a mine for a corporation, but as what it already was, a lifeline that didn't need to be looted to be valuable. So tell me, was I selfish for fighting that hard, or were they wrong for dressing up greed as the greater good? Where do you draw that line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me whose side you'd be on if this was your lake, and if you've seen an HOA or a company twist the rules to steamroll regular people, I want to hear your story.